What's going on, guys? Today we're going to be taking a look at and testing and abusing the Cyelee Shark X Pro. Now, this optic is pretty rugged. I've seen a lot of videos on it. We did a test of another Cyelee optic last week or the week before last, a few weeks ago, and it stood up to it. I beat the crap out of that. There's still bark off that tree over there, and we're going to do the same thing to this Shark X Pro. There is one thing I do like about this, and there's a reason that I put it on this Canic Elite Combat. This is kind of made for the SIG footprint. It does have a Delta Point Pro footprint, so you can mount it straight to like SIG P320s. All my 320s had optics on them, and they were sighted in. And I was like, I hate to really take that off one of them. And then I thought, I never wanted to put an optic on this Elite Combat because when you do, you lose your rear sight. I hate that. Gosh, I hate that. But this has a little raised spots right here. You can see that circle reticle. It does have a 2 MOA dot with a 26 MOA circle. But it does have 2 raised spots right there. So you can kind of use that as a rear sight. And I like that. I hate it when pistol companies take off the rear sights. But with this Shark X Pro, if you don't have a Delta Point Pro footprint, you can get a plate, but it will give you kind of a small rear sight there that you can use. And that's way better than nothing, in my opinion, because it is functional. When I pull this up, I can find the dot. I don't know how the height different is. You can always change your front sight to match it if you want to. I may test that on or off camera to see what the difference is at the height right here, how it makes a difference being a little higher on this plate. Now, if it wasn't on this plate, if it was on a SIG, it would probably be perfectly in line with that. So that's something to keep in mind. If you're putting it on a SIG, it'll probably be just dead nuts even, because that's kind of what this dot is designed for. It does kind of have this little hood right here that sticks out to kind of take the blunt force when you're hitting stuff, and we're going to test that here in a minute. And it is IPX7 water resistant. And if I read this right on their website, it has like a drop impact resistant of like 6 feet. That's pretty good. I'm 6'2", so that'd be like kind of up here and just letting it go. We probably test that as well. But I did put it on this Canic, like I said, and I think it's going to be a good optic for this. But let's put a few rounds through it. I'll tell you initially if I lose the dot. This is a pretty good size window. We can actually check it out next to an RMR. You can see the Cyelee optic is actually quite a bit larger than the RMR. We do also have a Holosun 507C, and you can see right here that the Cyelee actually, in my opinion, looks a little bit bigger than the 507C does. And the 507C has a pretty big window on it. It does have some lines back here to take down the glare. I do like that. You can get some glare off some optics and sights and stuff every once in a while. And by putting some lines or checkering or something back here, it just helps takes that off. I do want to say the optic, man, I don't see much tint at all. Like when I look through the Trigicon, I see some blue tint, and everybody knows that Trigicon does blue tint on theirs. I don't really see much at all on this. This looks way clearer glass-wise than the RMR does. But enough talking. Let's get to shooting. Let's get to torturing. Let's see what happens. All right, guys, first shots. I've not even sighted this optic in yet. I'm going to use the optic to actually rack the slide. Hopefully I can remember to do that every time. But let's see if we look. I did a pretty good job of sighting this in. I didn't really lose the dot. I do want to say that. I could maintain the dot pretty well, but I want to go show you something. That's the first shots I ever shot through that. I was shooting it pretty rapidly. I really wasn't trying to aim perfect, but that's the group I shot shooting rapid. Now, some of that may come down to the trigger on that Canic is just amazing. Those are the only Canics I really buy that have those big flat triggers like this and the Rival and the TTI you seen just a second ago with the Holosun on it. But I didn't sight that in. I just kind of put it over the front sight, and that's what happened. That's pretty awesome. Now, I don't know if Cyeelee's just that good, Cyelee, or if I'm just good at sighting it in, but that's pretty good. But again, I didn't really lose that optic. This is a very forgiving window, and the optic performed very well. And I do want to say I've got it turned down kind of for accuracy when I sight it in, but it gets very, very bright. Let me show you this. Let's see if we can, there it is. Look how bright that optic is. I mean, I can easily see that in bright, bright sunlight. So the optic gets very, very bright, and it does have a 50,000 hour battery life. And you do change the battery on the side. Unlike this thing, which really irritates the crap out of me, I hate optics that you have to take the optic off the gun to actually change the battery in. That's just stupid. We're in 2024, and you shouldn't have to do that. They do have some new ones out now that you don't have to, but they're enormous. I don't understand it. This is a much, much better design than Trijicon has on most of their optics, in my opinion, for such a small footprint. Like I said, those optics get enormous, and I don't know why they couldn't figure out how to do it without making the optic the size of like an aim point Comp M4. I'm exaggerating, but you know what I mean. Cyelee got it right the first time, in my opinion. I'm gonna sight this thing in off camera and make sure it's sight. It looks like it's sight in, but if I do any fine tuning on it or something like that, I want to make sure I've got it fine tuned, because we'll do a few shots to get a zero on it. After I get it zeroed, we'll torture this thing for a little while, and then we'll do another 5-shot group to see if it lost zero. I'm not extremely worried about breaking the glass. The other one passed perfectly fine with everything I did to it. And it held zero. I hadn't shot a Glock in a while in our other video, so I pulled a couple of shots. I seem to be shooting this a little better. Like I was talking about, that big flat trigger right there, and not a Canik review, but that's just amazing. So let me sight this thing in. We'll torture this thing a little bit. All right, guys. So I really didn't touch it. I turned it down just a 1 notch. But this, I mean, I flew a couple. That's me. My trigger control is horrible. That's the first time I've ever shot that pistol. But we had a pretty big hole over here and a pretty massive hole right there. So the first time ever shooting a pistol, I'll take that. Because that's definitely in the A zone all day long. So let's empty this thing out. I literally had one more round I could have shot and it would have been empty. But let's do some torturing on it. Let's try not to knock everything off the table like we did last time. And we'll beat the crap out of this thing a little bit. I want to make sure I don't knock my CS off the table or the holster. And let's see what we got right here. Let's turn this down. You can see right here, we have the optic. Now, you're probably not going to hit it that many times on a table racking it. Now, again, if we turn it around here, you can see the tree where I beat it up with the other one. Again, there's nothing in this gun. Let's knock some bark off. Let's get some bark off that tree. Don't you be yelling at me, tree huggers. All right, so we beat the crap out of the top of it on the tree. All right, now it says it can withstand a fall of 6 feet. Now I'm about 6 feet, right on the optic. So you can see right there, it definitely landed on the optic. What if you accidentally throw it? That landed hard. And still nothing. You can see the dot right there, still no issues. We got a lot of mud on it. We got a lot of everything on it. If we go back down here, now like I said, it's taking the blunt of it right here on that ledge. You can see this ledge on the front. That's what's taking the blunt when you rack it on the table. Now the top of it's just taking the blunt right here. We're just knocking bark off this tree. This is a tree that is not dead. I am beating the piss out of this thing, and it's just taking it. I almost hit a rock that time. I would have cringed on that, not for the optic, but I don't want to really, beat the crap out of my gun too much. I would like to have some finish on it when we're done with this test. But we'll drop it again. There is a bunch of shells right here. Right on those shells. Let's drop it again, 6 feet. Right on the shells. Tons more mud on the Optic. It's holding up, guys. I mean, seriously. I mean, it's just, I'm just actually missing the table. But yeah, it's see what we got now. That dot is still in there. It's still working. I mean, we are abusing this thing. Look at all the bark. I took more bark off with this one because this is like one of their newer Optics. So I just really wanted to make sure that it was as good as the other one. We may just take all the bark off this tree. I don't know. But it's still no cracks, no nothing. Optic's still in good shape. We'll throw it again. It landed over there pretty hard. Let me go pick it up, see what we got. Oh man, guys. Hey, it did nothing. It did nothing. It did nothing. Other than a bunch of mud and bark and stuff that's on this. It is scratched up a little bit. You can see how it's scratched up on the top right there. Did take some of the finish off on that tree. But the Optic's still there. Let's check zero. Okay guys, before I check zero, there was something else I kind of wanted to do. I mean, we beat up a tree, we threw it on the ground, we did all kinds of stuff, but we got this target right here. Dinner time. Nothing. Man, this thing is a beast. If it holds zero after everything that we've done to it, that's crazy. But we're about to see. All right, guys, 10 rounds back in the gun. Again, these iPros suck. They're fogging up. But let's see what we got here. All right, guys, we're not hiding nothing on this channel. I did fly flew a couple of those shots. I think that was more me than it was the gun. Again, we did fly a few. We'll test this again, but we put like 4 or 5 right here and 2 or 3 right there in the same hole. I'm gonna do it one more time because I feel like that was me more so than the gun. I may have been rushing a little bit. So let's check it because I want to be 100% sure if the Optic shifted or if I shifted. I'm thinking it's me. Let me put up another target. We'll check it again. All right, guys, one more time. Let's see if we can get them in a little closer. I really believe that was me that time. Let me turn the Optic up just 1 notch. Yeah, I think that was me last time. I did fly a couple here too, but most of them were right where it needed to be. Flew these 3, the other 7 was right here. Again, that's all me, but that's still probably what, a couple inches at 12 yards. I'm not saying I'm a sharpshooter by any stretch of the imagination, but that is all still well in the A zone, and that Optic did hold zero in my opinion. And I want you to look at it. That thing, you can see where it's beat the paint off the top. The front's got some paint off of it. That Optic really took a beating in just a short period of time, and it held zero, no problem at all. I think I'm gonna take it out and shoot it at like, do the 44 yard, 10 round challenge to see if how many times I can hit it with this Optic, just to make sure I can do it at 44 yards. I wanted to make sure the gun made it okay before I got there. All right, guys, put a little bit more mud on it, throwing it up through there. A few more scratches on the top. Not sure what it hit, but it hit something pretty hard. But let's see. The dot is still there. Probably need to turn it up since we're out here in the bright setting. There it is. The dot is still there. Very, very visible. So let's see if we can hit this from 44 yards. I'm not sure if this is a test of the Optic or me as a shooter or the gun, but I just kind of like doing this test. All right, guys, a lot of you may not have ever heard of Cyelee Optics. And to be honest, until they reach out and ask me if I wanted to review this optic, I'd never really heard of them either. I mean, I'd seen them on Instagram a few times and stuff like that, but I'd never really, paid attention to them. But there's one thing I can say after this video is you can beat the piss out of these things and they'll keep running. I mean, this is one tough optic, and at 44 yards, with the Canic Elite Combat, we just put 10 shots on a torso size piece of steel that is smaller than a human torso. So it definitely maintains zero after all that. It can definitely outshoot me, and it's staying on this pistol because that's pretty amazing at what all it just did. From where I threw that gun, walking out here, to where it landed, 6, 12, 18, it's got to be 20 feet, 25 feet is what I just threw that gun, or with the optic on it. Now it was cleared. I made sure it cleared. You can see that. But it landed hard and took a big chunk of whatever color anodizing off the top of that, and a big chunk right here. You can see that. And it just maintains zero. One thing I can say about these optics is they are tough. Now, I don't know, over 10,000 rounds, what it's going to do, and I don't have the money to spend 10,000 rounds on an optic test, but we did put, I think, almost 100 rounds through this optic, and it's not the round count that I was worried about. It was the abuse I was giving it to. I don't think after beating it on that tree and beating all the bark off that tree that we did, throwing it 25 feet, tossing it across the ground, dropping it 6 feet, landing on the optic, and making it look like that, I don't think that a round count is going to damage it, in my opinion. I think beating that tree and beating that steel is going to put more abuse on this optic than just shooting it will. And that's just my opinion. That's my 2 cents. But I think Cyelee optics are good to go. Again, this is a Delta Point Pro footprint. If you have a SIG P320 and you're looking for an option with the sights on it right here, I forgot to do that. There's one thing I'm going to do before I close this video is test that on this gun. But I do believe with a SIG P320, this would actually set low enough that it would co-witness perfectly. But I do want to check it on this in case you do have a Canic that you're wanting to put this on. And I do want to show, I have some mud. I don't know if you can see it. There's mud down in this glass right there on the window where the reticle comes out, and it's still working. And there's some mud down in there. I guess I'll have to get that out with the Q-tip. But it's still working even with that. But so far this thing's good to go. Let me go down here. I'm going to actually put up another shoot and see, and just test what this does, the zero on this gun. So if you have a plate, you can see kind of what you can expect out of that. All right, guys, instead of 10 rounds, I'm only going to do 8. I had like 8 rounds in that box. So just to make that an even box for the next review I do, I'm just going to do 8. But we're going to test that rear sight. I'm actually just going to cut the optic off. If you hold down the dim button, the optic will go off. If you hold down the up button to turn it brighter, it changes the reticle. So let's see what this does right here. I was shooting high. It shoots high with that. I'll go show you. I mean, this is honest reviews. They did not pay me to do this. I'm sure with a SIG P320 like the optic was designed for, you'd be just fine. But we were shooting up here instead of down in here. So it does shoot just a little bit high with that. It did put them all in one hole still, basically. But it did shoot just a little high with that. There again, having to raise that muzzle up to align your sights is what caused that. So if I did not have to run this plate, if this was on a SIG P320 like they intended it to be, that would not be an issue. It would probably be dead on. But just know if you run it with a plate, you will be a little bit high just using your sights. Now there again, I think this Optic can take the abuse, so it should stay running. I don't think you'll have an issue. Your battery may go dead at some point in time, but I don't think the Optic's gonna go dead because I beat the crap out of this thing. But I think it's good to go. I mean, with the abuse I did, let's turn around here one more time. I want you to see this tree. Look at the bark on that tree that I took off. I mean, I beat the crap out of that thing, and it's still maintaining 0, and at 44 yards, that's just all 10 times on the plate. You just can't beat that. So I think these optics are good to go. Again, if you're looking for a SIG P320 optic, I think this is a great choice because it does have the sight made into the back. And I do like that sight because I don't like to lose my rear sights. For one reason, as I bring the gun up, I've trained to have the optic in the window, but having a rear sight does kind of help bring it to the center. So having these 2 little nib posts right there does help me whenever I bring the optic up and get the optic in the center of the window or the glass. But again, I think Cyelee optics are great optics. I've never had a problem out of either one of these that they sent me, and I beat the crap out of these optics. Now, I didn't do as much on the first test as I would like to because the rain came and I had to stop, but I felt like I made it up in this video and really abused this optic, probably more than you ever will just carrying this or using it for self-defense or probably even a duty gun if I was guessing. Again, a big, huge thank you to Cyelee Optics for sending this Shark X Pro out. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you guys very much. I do like the optic. It's going to stay on this pistol and continue in use on the channel. And you'll probably see this again because it's great. I love you guys. Thank you for watching the video. I'll see you next time.